I never thought I'd be the type of guy to catch his wife cheating on him, but here I am. Her name, Emily. We've been married for about 7 years now, and honestly, I thought we had a pretty good thing going. Sure, we had our fights, but nothing out of the ordinary. We were comfortable, I trusted her. Or at least I thought I did. It all started about 2 weeks ago. Emily had been acting weird, more distant, snapping at me over small things, avoiding me at night. I figured she was just stressed at work or maybe dealing with some personal stuff. She's always been a bit bitchy when she's overwhelmed, so I didn't push her. But then I started noticing little things. Her phone constantly glued to her hand, secretive texts she'd hide when I walked into the room, and she'd come home later than usual, saying she was out with her friends but wouldn't say which friends. That kind of thing. Nothing concrete, just enough to make me suspicious. But I didn't want to jump to conclusions. Still, I was unsettled. I needed something concrete, so I started paying closer attention, and that's when I found out something that hit me like a punch to the gut. It wasn't even what I expected, no suspicious messages or late-night calls. It was something else entirely. One night I was scrolling through her social media, just casually browsing, trying to see if I missed anything. Her profile was pretty active, lots of posts, pictures, stories. Nothing out of the ordinary until I saw a photo that just about broke me. It was her at a book signing event, a big one she'd been talking about for weeks. I wasn't able to go because of work, which I felt bad about, but I never imagined she'd use that as an excuse. The picture was her with some guy, a well-known author, Alex Carter. I recognized him immediately. The caption was something stupid like, "My favorite author and me, what a night." And there were comments from her friends, all congratulating her, praising her for meeting him. But the real shock was the photo itself. They were kissing. Not just a quick peck, full-on, lips pressed together, a deep kiss. It was at the after-party, judging by the background. I stared at it for what felt like forever, trying to process what I was seeing. My wife, the woman I love, cheated on me with her favorite author. The guy she's been talking about like he's some kind of hero is the guy she's kissing in this picture. I felt every emotion you can imagine: anger, betrayal, heartbreak, confusion. I couldn't believe it. She lied to me about the event, lied about her night out, and here she was, basically flaunting her affair on social media. I wanted to confront her right then, but I held back. I knew she'd lie her way out. She's good at it. She always was, but I couldn't just ignore it either. I had to figure out what to do. I spent the next couple of days replaying everything in my head, the little signs I missed, the fights, the lies, and that picture kept haunting me. I was furious, but I also felt a deep sadness. How did I not see this coming? How did I miss the signs? I'd always trusted her, and now I felt like I'd been played for a fool. I started questioning myself. Was I blind? Did I miss the clues? Or was she just that good at hiding it? I kept telling myself, she's probably just messing around, having fun, maybe even just a one-time thing, but deep down I knew it was more than that. This wasn't just some drunken fling. She went to a public event, met her favorite author, and kissed him like it meant something. It was intentional. That realization made everything worse. I thought I knew her, but now I wasn't so sure. The worst part was that I couldn't tell anyone. I didn't want to make a scene, not yet. I needed solid proof, and I needed to plan how I was going to handle this. I felt like I was walking on thin ice, unsure whether I should confront her right away or just gather my thoughts. But one thing was clear. My wife, Emily, was doing something she knew I wouldn't approve of, and she was hiding it better than I ever thought possible. The next few days were a blur of thoughts and restless nights. I kept going back to that picture, trying to understand how she could do something so blatant and still expect me not to notice. The worst part was, she behaved like everything was normal. She'd come home, cook dinner, laugh at her phone, and act like I was the crazy one for even questioning her. I was getting more and more pissed off, but I also felt this gnawing sadness, like I'd lost the woman I thought I knew. I started checking her phone more often, sneaking around, trying to find more evidence. I wasn't proud of that. I know it's invasive, but I felt like I had no choice. When I finally got hold of her messages, it was worse than I imagined. There were texts from Alex Carter, flirty, suggestive, even some outright inappropriate. They'd been exchanging messages for weeks, maybe months. She told him she was lonely, that I was too busy with work, that she was craving something more. I saw photos she'd sent him, her in the shower, lying in bed, half naked, all for his eyes only. It was like a slap in the face. My wife, the woman I loved, was actively pursuing this affair. And from her messages, it was clear she was enjoying it. She was craving the sex, the excitement, the thrill of sneaking around. I felt sick. I wanted to confront her then and there, but part of me hesitated. I needed to be sure. I wanted her to admit it herself, to see her squirm when she realized I knew everything. The more I read, the angrier I got. But I also started feeling a strange sense of clarity. I realized I couldn't keep pretending like everything was okay. I'd been blind, trusting her blindly for years, and now I saw her for what she really was, someone who'd lie, cheat, and betray me without a second thought. The walls I'd built around my heart were crumbling fast. One night I decided I'd had enough. I was going to confront her. I couldn't take the lying, the sneaking around, the fake smiles. I needed the truth from her mouth. I waited until she was in bed, lying next to me, pretending to sleep. I sat up, took a deep breath, and woke her gently. "Emily," I said softly, trying to keep my voice steady. "We need to talk." Her eyes fluttered open, glinting with that bitchy look she always had when she was annoyed. "What now? What's so important?" She snapped, sitting up. I looked at her, my heart pounding. "I know about Alex Carter, about the kiss. The messages, everything. Don't bother lying. I saw the pictures. I read the texts." Her face froze for a second, then she scoffed. "Oh, come on, you're overreacting. It was just a stupid joke at the book signing. You know how these events are. Fans get carried away, and I was just being friendly." I shook my head, feeling a mixture of rage and disappointment. "Don't give me that. I saw the messages, the photos. You were flirting with him, sending him naked pictures, saying you missed him. How could you lie so damn easily?" She rolled her eyes, crossing her arms. "It's none of your business. I did nothing wrong. You're just jealous." That was the moment I realized how much she was willing to lie, to deny what was right in front of her. It was as if she thought she could keep fooling me forever. But I wasn't going to be that guy. I told her I'd had enough, that I wasn't going to be played for a fool anymore. We argued, loud and bitter, with her throwing back every excuse she could come up with. I was bored. It was just sex. You never pay attention to me anymore. And even I don't love him, I just needed something to fill the void. But it didn't matter. The damage was done. I saw her for what she was, and honestly, I felt crushed. Not just because she cheated, but because she lied so easily, so convincingly. It was like she was a different person, someone I didn't recognize. I felt betrayed not only by her actions, but by her entire personality. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything in my head, wondering if I was making the right choice. Part of me wanted to believe she'd come clean, that maybe she'd realize she fucked up and want to fix it. But another part knew that her lies had already broken whatever trust we once had. I was at a crossroads, whether to fight for the marriage or walk away. And honestly, I didn't know what was worse, staying and trying to forgive her, or leaving and feeling like I'd lost everything. What made it worse was the thought of her continuing her affair without a care, sneaking around, making me a fool. I'd always been a loyal guy, worked hard, paid the bills, and loved her. And now I was faced with the brutal truth that I'd been completely blind to her manipulations. This was just the beginning of a long, painful process. The following days after that confrontation were a whirlwind. I couldn't focus at work, I couldn't sleep, and I kept replaying everything in my mind. Every lie, every sneaky look, every time I brushed off my gut feeling. Emily, on her part, kept up the act of being indifferent, like she didn't give a damn that I knew her secret. She was bitchy, dismissive, and even more manipulative than usual, trying to paint herself as the victim, saying I was overreacting, that I was just paranoid. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I decided I needed to get some space. I couldn't be around her while I was this angry and hurt, so I went to stay at my brother's place for a few days. I told her I needed to clear my head, but really, I just wanted to see if she'd slip up or give me some reason to doubt her. I wasn't planning to rush into anything, but I knew I needed to gather my thoughts and figure out what I wanted to do next. While I was gone, I kept checking her social media, her texts, her emails, anything I could get my hands on without her knowing. I felt like I was slowly unraveling her web of lies, and I needed to see just how deep it was. And what I found wasn't pretty. She'd been planning to meet him again, talking about how she missed him, how she wanted to see him when she got the chance. She even sent him some more explicit pictures saying she couldn't wait to be with him again. It was disgusting. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. One day, I got a message from my brother. He'd been watching her too. She'd come over for dinner, acting normal, like she wasn't hiding anything. But then she got a call and left in a rush, looking flustered. My brother saw her slip something into her purse before she left. When I pressed him, he told me she'd been sneaking around, meeting with him again, probably for sex. That was the final straw. I realized I couldn't keep pretending or hopping she'd come clean. She was deep in her affair and she didn't care about what I thought or felt. That night I made a decision. I wasn't going to let her keep sneaking around, lying and hurting me. I needed to confront her again, but this time I had proof. I'd gathered enough evidence, screenshots, messages, photos, to lay it all out in front of her. I called her at work and told her I wanted to see her when she got home. Her voice was annoyed, like I was bothering her, but she agreed to come back early. When she arrived, I was already sitting on the living room sofa, laptop open, evidence ready. I looked her straight in the eyes and said, "This isn't a game anymore. I know what you've been doing. The messages, the pictures, the secret meetings, I saw it all. I'm done pretending I don't know. You've been cheating on me with your favorite author, Alex Carter, and I have every damn proof." Her face twisted into a sneer. "Oh, please. You're making a huge deal out of nothing. I was just bored." "It was just sex. You're overreacting." I shook my head slowly. "No, Emily, it's not just sex. It's betrayal. It's disrespect. It's lying to my face for months. How could you do this? How could you lie about being at some stupid book signing, then kiss another man in front of everyone? You think I didn't see your messages, the pictures, that you were planning to see him again?" She started crying, but her tears weren't genuine. It was that fake crying kind she always did, more for effect than real emotion. "I didn't mean for it to go this far. I was just lonely, and he made me feel wanted. You don't understand how it feels to be ignored, to be taken for granted. Sex with him was amazing, and I needed that. You're just overreacting because you're insecure." That was the point I lost it. I told her she was full of shit, that I deserved better than a wife who cheated on me and then tried to gaslight me into thinking it was my fault. I told her she was a bitch for lying and manipulating me, for using me and then throwing me aside like garbage. I said I was done. I was done with her lies, her excuses, her bullshit. And that's when she finally snapped. She yelled at me, called me names, said I was controlling, that I wasn't the man she fell in love with anymore. She accused me of being paranoid and jealous, told me I was overreacting. But I didn't care anymore. All I saw was a woman who didn't respect me, who didn't care about what I felt, who had no problem screwing around with her favorite author in the middle of her marriage. I told her she could pack her shit and leave. I didn't want to see her face anymore. The betrayal hit so deep, I felt like I was drowning. The emotional pain was raw, but I knew I had to be strong. I wanted to believe I could move past this somehow, but right now I was just trying to breathe, trying to hold myself together. The silence after she left was deafening. I just sat there on the couch, staring at the mess of her stuff strewn across the floor, feeling like my entire world had shifted beneath my feet. For a long time, I couldn't even cry. I was numb. My mind kept flipping through everything. Her lies, the betrayal, the fact that I'd trusted her for so long. I kept asking myself how I didn't see it coming, how I could have been so blind. The immediate aftermath was a mix of relief and devastation. On one hand, I finally had the proof, the truth out in the open. No more lies, no more pretending. But on the other, the ache of betrayal hit so hard I thought I might drown in it. I kept replaying that stupid photo of her kissing Alex Carter, the way she looked at him like he was some kind of god. It was such an insult, like I was nothing, like our marriage meant nothing to her. And that realization cut deep. I started feeling angry then, furious actually. I was furious at her for doing this, but also at myself for not seeing it coming sooner. I hated the way I let her manipulate me, how I ignored the signs, how I trusted her blindly. Now I knew better. I knew I'd been a fool and I wouldn't make that mistake again. I promised myself I'd never let someone treat me like that, not again. For the next few days, I stayed mostly in my apartment, trying to process everything. I didn't want to call friends or family yet. I needed time alone to think. But the truth was, I was a mess inside. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and crushed, but I also had this strange sense of clarity. I realized I'd been living in a fantasy, believing things were perfect, believing she loved me, trusting her blindly. Now I saw her for what she was, a liar, a cheat, someone who cared more about her feelings than our marriage. I decided I wasn't going to rush into any decisions. I needed to figure out what I truly wanted. Was I going to go through with an actual divorce? Or was there any hope of salvaging what was left? Honestly, the thought of trying to patch things up seemed impossible right now. I was hurt beyond belief, and I didn't trust her anymore. I knew I'd have to rebuild my life, but I wasn't sure I was ready yet. One thing I was certain of, I couldn't keep pretending she was innocent. That night I sat down and wrote out all the things I'd discovered, all the evidence I had. I wanted to be clear with myself. There was no going back to the way things used to be. That's when I made up my mind. I was going to confront her one last time, but not to beg or plead. I was going to tell her exactly what I thought and felt, how much she had hurt me, and what my next steps would be. I was also starting to think about a plan. I knew I needed support, maybe even legal advice, to prepare for what was coming. I couldn't let her manipulate me anymore, and I certainly wasn't going to let her get away with everything she'd done. I had to be strong for myself. I owed myself that much. But more than anything, I felt a strange sense of clarity, like I was finally waking up from a bad dream. I'd trusted her with everything, and she'd thrown it all away for a fleeting moment of sex and attention. It was brutal to face, but I knew deep down I deserved better. I'd been a good husband, a loyal one. And now I was ready to do what I needed to do to heal, whether that meant fighting for the marriage or walking away for good. I didn't have the answers yet, but I knew the truth, and that was enough to start making decisions. The confrontation I'd been planning finally came on a cold, gray morning. I told her to meet me at the coffee shop downtown. I knew I couldn't do this at home. I needed somewhere neutral, somewhere I could keep my composure. When she arrived, looking tense but still trying that bitchy smirk she always used when she thought she was winning, I felt a mix of anger and sadness boiling inside me. I laid everything out, showed her the messages, the photos, the times I'd been sneaking around, all of it. Her face kept shifting from annoyance to shock to outright denial. She tried to dismiss it, saying I was just jealous or paranoid, that I was blowing things out of proportion. But I wasn't interested in hearing her lies anymore. I told her I didn't want to hear any more excuses. That I knew she'd been cheating on me, not just with Alex Carter, but with every lie she told, every moment she spent sneaking around. She looked furious then, her eyes narrowing, her voice rising. "You're crazy. I can't believe you're doing this. After everything, you're throwing our marriage away over some stupid pictures. You're just insecure and jealous. You don't trust me because you're a terrible husband." I looked at her and felt nothing but disgust. "No, Emily, you're the one who's terrible. You lied, cheated, and used me. You think I don't see how you manipulate everyone around you, how you twist things to fit your bullshit." I paused, voice steady. "I'm done. I'm done with the lies, the cheating, the pretending. I want you to leave. And don't come back." She snapped, calling me every name in the book, controlling, insecure, jealous, trying to make me doubt myself. I just sat there, cold inside, knowing I'd reached the end of the line. I told her I didn't want any of her explanations, her apologies, or her tears. I just wanted her gone. When she finally stormed out, I felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness. I knew I'd done the right thing, but it didn't make it hurt any less. For a moment, I thought about chasing her, trying to hold on to what we had, but then I remembered all the lies, all the times she'd betrayed me. I realized I couldn't fix this. Not anymore. That night I was alone in my apartment again. The silence was deafening. I sat on the couch, staring at the TV, but I couldn't focus. My mind kept drifting back to everything I'd lost, my trust, my stability, the woman I thought I knew. I felt a deep ache in my chest, like my heart was breaking all over again. I'd spent so much time building a life with her, only to have it shattered in a matter of weeks. In that quiet, I finally allowed myself to feel everything: anger, sadness, betrayal, heartbreak. For years, I'd been the loyal husband, the one who never doubted her. Now I realized that I'd been living in a bubble, fooling myself into believing she loved me the way I loved her. But her actions proved otherwise. I knew I had to get out of this, rebuild myself, and move on. The question was how. I didn't have all the answers yet, but I knew I couldn't stay in the past. I had to focus on healing, on making sure this wouldn't define me. I owed myself that much. I made a promise then. And there, no matter how much it hurt now, I would come out of this stronger. I would learn from it. And someday I'd find a way to forgive myself for trusting her, and maybe, just maybe, find someone who would treat me with the respect I deserved. In the weeks that followed, I threw myself into rebuilding my life. It was a slow, painful process, but I knew I had no choice. I stayed away from her, blocked her number, and cut off all contact. Every day was a new challenge, dealing with the loneliness, the anger, the betrayal. But I also found small victories in just getting through the day, in rediscovering myself outside of that toxic relationship. One thing I realized was how much I'd let her manipulate my feelings. I'd been so eager to make things work, to hold on to the idea of a perfect marriage, that I ignored the warning signs. Now I saw clearly. Trust isn't something you should give blindly. Respect isn't optional. And cheating, especially with someone she admired, was a betrayal I'd never recover from easily. But I also learned to forgive myself for trusting too much, for believing in the best in her when she was clearly not the person I thought she was. Throughout this process, I talked to friends and a counselor. I needed help processing everything. I learned I wasn't alone and that many guys go through something similar, sometimes even worse. It's easy to blame yourself, to think you should have seen the signs, but in reality, betrayal blindsides everyone at some point. The key is to accept it, learn from it, and move forward. Now I don't see her anymore. The pain is still there, but it's less raw. I've started dating again, cautiously. It's not easy trusting someone new after what I've been through, but I realize I deserve someone who respects me, treats me right, and values honesty. No more secrets, no more lies. I'm done with that chapter of my life. Looking back, I know I made the right decision. It hurt more than I can say, but I had to get rid of the poison. I had to face the truth, no matter how ugly it was. And honestly, I'm proud of myself for doing what I had to do. I learned that a marriage is built on trust and respect, things I thought we had, but turned out to be nothing more than illusions. Now I value myself even more. I won't settle for less. To anyone reading this who's going through something similar, my advice is simple: trust your gut. If something feels off, don't ignore it. Confront it, face it head on. Because in the end, you deserve honesty and respect more than anyone. And as hard as it is to let go of what you thought was perfect, know that you have the strength to survive, to heal, and to eventually find happiness again. Trust me, it gets better.